cool.
Great. All right. So my name is Sandra, and I'm leading comms and partnerships at Cogito Finance, which is a spin-off from SingularityNet. And so what we are doing is we are tokenizing fixed income assets and AI managed portfolios of equities. And so this is essentially a treasury management solution.
Hello, everyone. My name is Max Flower. I'm a co-founder of AssetCat. And what we do is we build an Amazon for tokenized assets. And as well, we provide a white label solution for businesses and institutions that want to tokenize their assets. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vogar Usi. I'm the CEO of BitGet. We are the centralized exchange. We list project. We serve 35 million customers globally and facilitate $10 billion transactions every day.
So this is cool. RWA tokenization, right? We have treasury asset management, right? Treasury management. And then Bali real estate, and then your centralized exchange. So we have kind of like a broad overview of different layers in RWA that we can cover. I guess I'm the panelist. Hi, Matt K here. I want to kind of like do top layer questions, and then we'll kind of like dig in so everyone can leave here understanding a little bit more deeper RWA stuff than just kind of like the macro, what you need to read in headlines right now. But so I think we should also just like, we'll dig in. I have my first question here for Max. So fractionalized real estate, right? Can you give people a breakdown of how that works with your company?
Yeah. All right. So what we try to do at AssetCat is basically I spent my last 8 years of traveling across the globe. I lived in multiple countries and I spoke with tens of thousands of people. And I realized that actually with what blockchain is bringing, an idea of tokenization that you are enabling to basically divide the assets into pieces, it can help to unlock billions of dollars in wealth. So that was the main idea behind the AssetCat. And that's why we started doing that with real estate. And the reason for real estate is because everyone knows real estate. You don't need to explain people why real estate is good to own. Everyone knows that real estate is a good asset to own. It's also about managing that is also very often a tough factor for people because they don't know how to manage or who to give the management to. So we started doing that with the real estate in Bali because me and my co-founders were based in Bali. So we loved the market. The market was really expanding and we wanted to offer something to the clients that generates great returns. When we talk about great returns in Bali for the real estate, we talk about 12 to 18% on average a year of ROI. And we focus on the short-term rent. All the properties that we tokenize are existing properties. We don't buy a hole in the ground. So the moment we buy the property, it's immediately being rented out and generating the revenue for the clients globally. And yeah, that's how we do it in Bali. And we tried a completely different approach than I believe many our competitors do, because we saw that the biggest issue with the tokenization of the assets for retail is the fact that there is no demand for it. So how do you create demand? You can only create demand by creating a community. So we started with building the community, and since March this year, we built a community of 130,000 people from more than 100 countries. And we aim to educate these people and then grow it further to create a community of smart investors who want to build generational wealth using tokenized assets and buy assets within 2 minutes via a platform like AssetCat.
Thanks. And then Sandra, from Cogito Finance's perspective, how are you guys approaching RWA tokenization?
I'm just gonna do a little bit of a reverse because you have one less problem than us, because we have tokenized T-bills, and it turns out not everybody knows what T-bills are. So yes, everybody knows what real estate is. So we are focusing right now on having various risk appetites, right, in our offerings. So treasuries right now are very, very obvious risk-free assets, 5% right now. Cuts are gonna come. It's only a matter of time, and so we are preparing for a strategy that is focused on corporate bonds. Then when it comes to, which is also catered to entities, on-chain companies, DAOs. But then, for example, we see quite a lot of interest into our X fund, which is the AI managed portfolios of equities. And so this is, of course, very a high risk, high return profile of an investment. So here we see more interest from traders, right? So this is essentially different types of diversification, and we are trying to focus on both on-chain companies and traditional investors, because it seems like it's kind of funny. We have also investors from traditional, like for example, asset managers, that they for them it's easier to go through us to, for example, have access to T-bills than to actually go on their own, because it turns out that both on-chain companies like Web3 companies and traditional ones can have problems with creating a brokerage account, with bank account, with when you're a crypto company, it turns out that you have a ton of problems when it comes to establishing these accounts. We've been through that and we were very surprised how lengthy and problematic it is. So these are struggles that other companies will have to face as well. So this aside, there is also something that I personally really, really like, is how when you're a DAO or a Web3 company, we have different values that traditional companies have. We want transparency in terms of what you're investing in and how are you securing your financial runway. And so with tokenized, let's say, T-bills, you put that kind of confidence into your company for the community. And so this is how we're trying to have this approach when it comes to our investors.
This is cool. So we're kind of developing a narrative in real time. Like, Asset Cut is focusing on the individual user. You guys are focusing on companies. Let's pass the mic over to you and see how, from a centralized exchange perspective, what's your guys' approach to RWA tokenization?
First of all, our approach is that just because you can tokenize something, it doesn't mean you have to, because we have seen a lot of projects, for example, real estate, fractional rental, fractional investment, been there forever, and it is kind of a changing a form. It's actually not something new, even though it is a wealth on chain. And eventually, even if you have millions and billions passing through, it doesn't mean it will increase the overall crypto market, because it's just changing a form, whether you buy a property using dollars, euros, pounds, zlotys, or Bitcoin. It doesn't matter much. And eventually, that fractional tokenization is heavily based on USDT. Therefore, it's not much of value creation. But on other end, we see a lot of projects that are doing much complex tokenization, whether it is about an infrastructure. For example, there are projects that tokenize the mobile towers that distribute between the mobile providers. And it's a very complex system because there's a bidding involved, also the transparency and how the money is generated, value is generated and spent, and also expenses. Therefore, they solve very critical infrastructure problems. And also we have seen a lot of deep-in projects coming in place where they can, for example, tokenize real-world assets such as chargers or solar panels that they can generate electricity and sell back to the grid, or whenever, if you have a charger, you can rent it to your neighbors. And basically it is like a two-way tokenization where you don't just generate wealth by investing, but actually you generate wealth by both getting and earning and getting back. For example, you might have a solar panel where you generate electricity, sell to the grid, and I might have a charger that buys that electricity, but you can then rent my charger. Basically, we create that a huge value transfer on chain, which is very transparent and very cheap, rather than if we all went and did it through government and calculation. It would be very hard. Therefore, as a centralized exchange, we are looking into the projects that we can list that have actual value creation in a longer run and can help facilitate or solve complex problems of the world when it comes to real world assets, rather than just looking into taking something that traditionally already existed. For example, title deeds, right? Back in time it was on paper, then all became PDF, but it's still like A4, not smart contract, but it is still within the same logic of the things are done. It is not much of, in my opinion, it's tokenization that we are forcing, but it doesn't change much.
I like that you said not everything needs to be tokenized. And there is like kind of a big gap between RWA and DPIN, so I'm glad that you brought that up. I've been talking a lot about DPIN recently, and it seems to be the next kind of thing. They almost go hand in hand, DPIN and RWA. What challenges are you guys seeing in this space right now? Like with growing, with fundraising, with finding users? is there anything that you guys see there? And this is all like for all of you, I guess. Like, you know, we'll just kind of lobby back and forth now. But how do we get to that next? I imagine we're going to do all the partnerships and we're going to do all the business deals, and then we'll reach kind of like a plateau. Like, how do we get beyond that plateau?
That's what I exactly mentioned, because, for example, real estate tokenization was there forever. It's a model that works. You could buy, I don't know, hotel room and rent it like 50 years ago, vacation rentals, and you can do it today. But also with Sander, we're discussing, like, in United Arab Emirates, they want to tokenize race camels and race horses. And whatever they want
And milk them, yeah.
yeah, like,
Tokenized milk.
yeah, you can, I don't know, you can tokenize the lottery ticket, but also you can do something very complex that can, I don't know, tokenizing the satellites that you send and use a long-term investment, because I'm not sure in like who is familiar with the satellite business. When you send a satellite and then you can rent it and sell it to TV channels and also GPS navigator providers and many other things that could be done, and it can be a long-term investment and having a resale value. And also it can, because now it's predominantly done by the government, but it can also bring it to the people, or maybe buying some other infrastructure or piece of an infrastructure that you invest. I think that could change the entire ecosystem is done. Otherwise, yeah, we will definitely hit the plateau if we just take whatever exists there and tokenize it for the sake of tokenizing.
Yeah, to me, I look at it like the market is very wide, and you can actually tokenize in the assets, and yeah, that it needs to make sense. In terms of the challenges that I see, is that very, very often things are too complex and they need to be simplified. And I think that's always the case in the Web3 space. So even if we talk about real estate tokenization, it's not a rocket science, but it's a no-brainer to do. And by doing that, you unlock the wealth of the billions of people. And even when you build exchange, you want people on your exchange. So this provides the indirectly the demand to exchange sooner or later, because these people will be onboarded to the Web3, but they don't need to know Web3. But through that, they will learn what is Web3. So it's like this process of basically digitalization and moving forward into the space. So I would mostly focus on, as a challenge, what you were saying, Matt, and I think that's the same with the dipping, which you said has a really amazing applications, and we talk about on next spaces as well a lot. But it's about simplifying the things, and there's so many things that you can sort using Web3 and tokenization, but the key is to explain it in a very simple way and educate a community so they know what they actually can do with it and how.
I really love the fact that you mentioned complexity and simplification, because we also struggle with that, especially. Yeah, but the problem is that regulations are not allowing us to be simple. The thing is that, for example, when we want to onboard an entity, the amount of documents that are necessary and that are required by, our fund admin, and they cannot, overcome it. Like, there's no going around it. There is literally no other option, because we have to be compliant. So we kind of going round in circles with how to make it easy, yet how to be compliant. But the other thing that I find pretty challenging is how we have this, institutional DeFi coming in, right? So it means that everything is KYC. I don't know if, not everybody will want to, be KYC'd, especially in DeFi when we have this status quo and people like to be anonymous. But I think that it will be moving away from that. But the thing is that, for example, when you're thinking about how to use RWAs or tokenize RWAs in DeFi, when these are permissioned tokens, you have to be KYC, you have to be on the whitelist. And then the problem appears when you want to integrate into DeFi protocols, like, for example, to lend it against something. The problem is when it comes to liquidations, because then what happens when you liquidate, a loan, and then who is, the owner of this token? They have to be, on the whitelist. So there are ways to overcome this, but essentially it's about DeFi protocols to be prepared to actually tackle these kind of cases. Because I would love to see more DeFi protocols to actually, use RWAs as collateral. But how for them, it's like an additional risk, additional costs to, talk with lawyers and actually integrate it. It's their choice. Like, are you going with that strategy? Are you going, along this narrative or not? So I say that it's only a matter of time that they will have to, but we're gonna see. But essentially, this whole KYC challenge, essentially.
Really great points. I think the sexiness and bridging real world Web 2 to Web 3. There is kind of a challenge coming up soon, if not already, the MiCAR, right? Mika. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but all that stuff in Europe is about to go off. Do you have any updates that you can share with the crowd, or like give us a TLDR of like what that is and what changes you see coming in the future?
Funny that you actually ask about it, because when I was at the ECC, I met the European Commissioner that was actually talking. Like, she was writing the Mika, and she actually mentioned how it's going to be from the next year. It's going to be pretty challenging for companies like, for example, Cogito, to act on our products, because we are an asset manager and our tokens are securities. So that puts a lot of pressure into how are we actually strategizing our products, like how are we going to market ourselves. So this is something that I don't know if you would have the same Max, the same cases. I don't know if you're an asset manager, but I guess that you have an SPV or not.
But to us, crypto has always been a gray zone, and we never knew which direction we're gonna go, right? So usually there is regulation coming in, and then you have your legal team, and they help to advise you to adjust. Especially unless we are a big exchange, then you better don't do that. But with us, as a startup, right, or when we are not so big yet, we are fluctuating left and right because we need to learn how the regulations are developing.
Honestly, from my end, we all know what happened to GDPR, and now we all end up in these mobile screens that half of it is occupied with something, and we accept that cookie policy that we don't know what we are doing.
Every single time, new website, okay, allow cookies,
Is it actually protecting us as a user? I'm not sure.
As an American, I'm like, come on! I just want to give me the content.
Exactly, but it is how it all turned out for sake of protection. We don't know what and how it's protected, and my biggest concern is that MiCA will become another GDPR half screen that we will all just accept without actually going to the deep. And especially as an exchange, we have a huge legal team. We recently hired a head of legal to sort all these matters, because it's becoming very complicated. And I used to live in London, but I moved to Dubai for obvious reasons. And with the laws and regulations being so easy in there, and helping startups to build their product, because it's very crazy, in my opinion, expecting a startup or a project just hire a 3 or 4 people legal team with that small runway they have, while they could invest it into any other position that would bring more value to the team or to building the product. And I think Mika will really make all European startups struggle. Once that are already having money, probably they can hire teams and do stuff, but for a new project, and I think a lot of developers will be looking to go to the new places where they have easier legal and regulations. For end user, as I mentioned, I don't think it will do much unless it is that another accepting point. And I think biggest change is, we also were talking to the legislators, it is about the limit that they are bringing for non-KYC transaction, which is 3,000 euros, I believe, which makes everything very complicated, especially when it comes to real world assets. Definitely they are much more than that 3,000 limit. It means everything should be KYC, and everything should be, you have to understand who is. It has plus sizes, but also I think it is going against that DGen idea, and it will be very hard to convince a crypto native to come and invest, especially if they don't want to identify themselves.
I love that you just said DGen. Because to me, RWA and DPIN feels like this is what the technology was supposed to be for. This is the juice of why the thesis that exists behind blockchain, behind the tech that we're all using, I guess, in this room on a daily basis. This is before the scams and the meme tokens and all that stuff came into play. Do you guys feel that kind of energy in the niches that you're working in?
Honestly, I've been talking to some senior leadership from Unilever. They use blockchain technology to make sure that they don't have any deforestation on their palm oil.
Unilever, like the shampoo people?
Shampoo people.
I just found out about Unilever the other day. Yeah, they make shampoos and beauty products. In case anyone else doesn't know, I
don't know you shall buy them or no, but literally 50% of supermarket shelves are occupied by either P&G or Unilever. And they use blockchain technology. It's nothing about like a crypto actually, but they use the technology to track the logistics. But it's not only them, like all large ports globally use the blockchain technology to track the shipment and logistics. Therefore, like applying technology is one topic and making money off the technology is another topic. And I think in crypto, we are much more focused on making money through that technology. And that's why technology becomes like a centerpiece of whatever projects we do. While, for example, NFTs died and Ticketmaster's 60% of their backend runs on NFTs, but no one cares.
This is all facts about logistics too. Like one of our partners that Max and I talk with on a regular basis is focusing on fixing the logistics issues in like delivering goods. It's like a $2 billion a year like in losses industry. So they're trying to utilize blockchain to help fix that. Don't need to derail, but go ahead, Max. We were talking about your perspective around like the energy around all of this, the vibes.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is like spending a lot of time in RWA and DeFi space these days is very interesting because you see like I always liked in blockchain space building like real stuff related to like real world assets or something that I can touch and see how it works and benefit like a mass adoption community. On the other hand, so this is like what we see. It's like really nice to have this type of conversation. On the other hand, you need degens in a way because they drive adoption for many things, you know, because it's just this craziness going on. Although this is like hard for me to find the vibe within there, you know, although like we launched some different NFT collections in the past and stuff. So I was very close with these people as well. But so I try to, you know, mingle with both and try to find like the balance in between, but it's not easy sometimes.
Degen life balance.
From the convos that I had, definitely among, you know, financial institutions, they are way more interested in like tokenized securities, and they're like, okay, that makes sense, like asset-backed tokens, and it's way easier to actually talk with them once you say that you're in tokenization, how it works, that you know you have those like crypto rails or you know that kind of real world assets. So I would say that definitely the sentiment changes once you actually try to, you know, pitch essentially tokenization. So yeah, big fan of it. I'm, you know, living the dream with that kind of narrative because I genuinely believe in it, you know, like this is where it's supposed to be going, you know. So I feel like there is only one thing that people are not really like aware of, how different of asset classes we are actually talking about when we are talking about tokenization, right? Because we are talking real estate, financial assets, but then, for example, you know, as a Singularity Net ecosystem, we are, you know, exploring different ways when it comes to tokenizing assets, and GPUs just one of many things that you can tokenize in terms of AI, right? So I'm very excited to see, like, you know, how it grows, because it's gonna grow exponentially, but like, you know, what kind of pace are we establishing?
I would just say that I love to see this actually adoption coming and interest coming from institutional investors, and also like we speak with a lot of family offices because we also tokenize some large real estate assets in the US, and this shift of the family offices being interested in investing, on asset managers being investors in tokenized assets because they see how simple it is, right? And like 1 year ago it was completely different. Now it's already moving forward. We speak with the same people, but we see already shift in minds, right? And it's been caused by the whole industry just moving towards that direction.
Yeah, facts. I think the cool thing about family offices too is like you get to the decision maker quicker than trying to talk to like a big institution, right? Like the other thing, going back to like the sexiness or, you know, the appeal here, when we go and talk to new friends and we want to onboard new people into RWA, I think it's really easy for us to do it because, you know, you talk about real estate, you talk about what are the logistics, you talk about weather, like you can plug all of these things into RWA or DPIN, and it makes it a very tangible use case for people. You're not sitting there trying to convince someone how like an L3 is so much better than the than like the Ethereum that they're using, or, you know, some modular blockchain, you know, insert buzzword here, you know, it's like it makes it very tangible.
Which is still okay because, you know, there are different markets. Like the fact that we are not technical people doesn't mean that, you know, it's just everyone has their own market. And I think these are important things for more technical people, right?
Facts.
That's how it is.
Yeah,
We have different personalities. And
totally. That's why I love the real world component to it. It makes sense to me. I don't know. And it seems like to you guys as well. And I also want to like take a look at the crowd. Like I was here last year doing a RWA talk, and there was maybe like 10 people in the room, and I mean, you guys can see the room is like quite packed. So within I always use ETHWarsaw as like a check-in, and it seems like over this last year, I mean, it's become so much longer. Even we've been doing spaces. By the way, I'd love to invite you to spaces that we do if you guys are active on X, talking about RWAs, and it's just been insane seeing the growth over the last 6 months. I mean, we used to have like maybe 100 people show up, listen in, and now it's we get easily between like 300 to 500 views on a weekly basis. So things are happening. The scaling is coming. We have a few minutes if anyone has questions. Like, we are way open to that. All right, cool. I'll go run around so you guys can answer. Is that okay? Cool.
Hi, and thank you very much for the talk, Jonathan, here representing a family office. Question when it comes to real-world asset, that they are like real-world assets are non-fungible. So how do you bridge a gap between the fungibility of the tokens and the non-fungibility of the assets that you are having, basically?
I guess I'm gonna answer. So you're asking how we are dealing with fungibility and non-fungibility of asset. Like, I mean, if we're talking about, for example, T-bills, right? Then our tokens are literally ERC20, right? So there is no like additional logic behind this, and essentially, like, one token has its NAV value that we are, updating. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
I think it was more like the question more relies in one building is different from the other one. So that's what I mean by non-fungibility of real world assets.
Yeah, I mean, one T-bill is one T-bill. So maybe I'm gonna yield the floor.
I don't think I clearly understand your question, to be honest.
Maybe let me clarify a bit. So basically, like, different buildings have different prices, meaning that the pricing of the assets is not straightforward. How do you answer this question? And this is not a crypto-related question, but it becomes very much it becomes a big question when you start distributing those tokens to a lot of people.
Okay, you first of all, you have to think about asset and fractionality. For example, the way you will go and buy a hotel room, right? And a hotel rental. Every room will come with specific price. It doesn't mean it's a nominal value. For example, you can get $100 worth and real estate portion, or $200 worth of the real estate portion. Fraction will become on the value of the entire asset, and then you will get returns based on the investment you have done, depending on all the expenses. For example, you pay around 18%, right, annually. But also, non-fungibility is about digital copies, because when it comes to real estate, you can have the digital copy of a building, and it doesn't mean that it is an NFT. For example, you can have a digital twin of the building as a non-fungible portion, where you will go and do different, let's say, one of the great examples that I know some companies do that, where you have an exact digital twin of the building, where you can do a lot of simulations, whether to put a fire exit or what will be the things that can be done on that building, or modifications. And that has nothing to do with the building's actual price. It's about how it will basically exist in the parallel world, where you can do a lot of technical changes in there, and then you can still fraction and share and sell it. But this is true, and they don't have to breach each other unless you are, let's say, an architecture firm, or you are, I know, like in the Middle East, almost all governments require these digital twins to do the approvals before like putting a building into the actual people moving in. While in the still most of the countries, you will need government agencies come and inspect an actual thing. But in like advanced economies now, they have like a building's digital twin that exists. You can do all the manipulations, but these two things doesn't have to come together.
Last thought, because I want to respect other panels' time, but please go ahead.
I just wanted to add that there are also interesting projects. There's one project in the US called Building.inc, and they build like tokenization of data. So when there are different types of large commercial buildings being built, they tokenize every single data when this building is being built, like like, I don't know, air conditioned. And then over the time of the years, they can see the state and the condition of these buildings. And based on that, they can price it much better. Because usually, you know, when you buy a building for like 200 million, it's usually discounted by like 20 or 15% because you don't know what's going wrong. But with this type of data, you can actually price it much higher if all is good and well maintained. So this is also how you can actually provide so much value to the whole industry.
Guys, thanks so much. We're out of time today. Clap it up for this lovely panel. There's so much more here.